Yo guys, this is Reinhardt, and this is gonna be a swaggalicious, bootylicious guide for Warlock PvE. Well, not really, but which does have a lot of swagger from the actual dressing. So this is gonna be a detailed PvE guide from rotations to symbols to what you actually need to excel in player versus environment as the witch itself. Alright, so let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the witch itself. Witch running the actually enchantment can CC mobs for up to 20 seconds. It is absolutely unbelievably too good and too strong. From your charm into the ultimates, which provides a plenty of CC, and on top of it, it provides a very good destructive AoE DPS as well. To actually think that the witch is a relatively squishy in PvE also is incorrect, because witch is one of the most survivable classes in PvE. In Isabella, when we're actually going for the speedruns, my witch is the main tank for the first two bosses out there. Now about the weaknesses, well, they are very few for the witch, because witch is tanky, which does do a lot of damage single target. I want to say the two things. One is it runs out of energy relatively quickly, and some of the abilities do cost a lot of energy. Especially the one that we're talking about, the Ring of Fire, and obviously the Murder of Crows. The other weakness of the witch is, it's simply put, is not the best DPS in the game. The best DPS in the games right now are Kinetic and Zerker. And the third one, which does require coordination to blow out the volatile curses. Now let's talk about the PvE build. So, first of all, let's go through talents. For talents, you want to pick up Witch Circles, which increases your massive AoE damage via Murder of Crows and Ring of Fire. Second is Art of Killing, because your basically extermination stance will do a lot of damage to really good filler DPS rotation. For the extra CC, you want to go with enchantment. Basically, your charm lasts twice as long and lasts up to 8 seconds. So Witch can literally provide 8-second charm effect on the enemies where they do take damage, and the damage is not going to be breakable. Then you want to go with a sudden death, because your right click extermination is basically one of your main burst rotations and one of your main DPS rotations as well, and you have to center everything around it. Then obviously you want to go with the Plague Wind, so you can actually spread all your taint for the full duration. After that, you want to pick up Flying on the Broom. That what gives the witch an incredible amount of survivability in PvE. On Isabella raids, when there is lots of rocket falling down from the skies, you can literally actually jump yourself and dash into the rockets and take a very minimal amount of damage. And that's what actually allows you to tank as a witch as well. That and the other thing I'm going to talk about. You want to go with the Knight's Life, because obviously sometimes you will get focused, especially if you're trying to off-tank or because you're spreading a lot of damage, you will pick up that aggro. So being able to live for extra 10 seconds means a lot. And last one is Bird Apocalypse, where you actually do more damage on your taint, and Extermination does more damage as well. Keep in mind that basically there is another hidden build that I'm going to try to work on. It's called the Living Helper. Living Helper is basically with actually, I think, Family Broom and correct enchantments right over here could provide a good damage. But so far every single Warlock on the server with SPV said the Living Helper is worthless. But I want to try to see if I can prove them wrong. But that's the standard PvE build right here. For the abilities, you want to go with the Envoys of Taint, with the Ring of Fire. Ring of Fire is great for both single target and AoE DPS as well. Then you want to go with obviously a charm, and the thing that makes the witch viable the most is Volatile Curse. Basically the way it works is you put a curse on a target, and your team members have to DPS to burst down that curse. If they would do it successfully, the curse does tons of damage to a boss. The way it works is the more HP the bots have, the stronger it is the curse and the harder it is to break. And you won't be breaking it without the coordination. On top of it, the Volatile Curse does take a benefit from, for example, a shield penetrating talents like Berserker have, where the Fracture does triple amount of damage to shields. So a good Fracture can actually take off about 60% to almost the entire curse as well. Now let's talk about the stats and the symbols that the witch actually should take for PvE, not PvP. For PvE, you want to go with the strengths, luck, build, with a good amount of accuracy, and obviously some critical chance as well, and the crushing blow. Now, when it comes to actually rings, you want to focus your rings to have accuracy crit chance, because it's absolutely amazing. For your amulets, you want to go with Explosion of Darkness first, and then Murder of Crows second. and for the weapon you want to go with the taint damage, and for the offhand you want to go with the dark ritual, reducing the incoming damage by 60%, which help you to actually tank the bosses as well. Now, on the other hand, when you go to the symbols, these are the must symbols to have for PvE. And let's start with, first of all, maximum recall and ultimate strength. No doubt about it. You want to have a clever maneuver because while you're dashing, you take 80% reduced damage and you have 5% of the shield as well. It's unnecessary to have for PvE, believe it or not. Now, for the DPS symbols, you also want to go with the Jinx, obviously the Warlock itself. You want to go with the Poly symbol. You want to go with the Archer, obviously stuff like Undercover of Darkness, for example, from the Slayer. You want to go with the Necromancer, and you want to go with the Kinetic, and you want to go with the Berserker symbols. But obviously I don't have them unlocked yet. The main symbol that you want to get as soon as possible, and that will get you into some of the really good groups, is running Mark of Death. Mark of Death, basically it puts a debuff on the target, and during 5 seconds, whatever damage you do to a target snapshots and then explodes after that. So, when you put your Volatile Curse that does 2 to 3 million damage, and on the Mark of Death will do 20% of that damage, plus all the damage that you did before. This what makes Witch extremely powerful in player versus environment, but it also generates a good amount of aggro as well. Now let's talk a little bit about the DPS rotation for itself. So for the DPS rotation you have to keep in mind 2 main priorities in your game. Well, actually kind of a 3. So you want to actually base around your Extermination, your Explosion of Darkness, and base all your rotation according to that. You need to pop your Envoys of Taint when you actually have a Mark of Death proc. And you obviously would like to actually pop the Volatile Curse when your Mark of Death out there. Right now, it's really difficult to actually proc Volatile Curse because unless I get a Lucky Crushing Blow crit. And I tried recording it a couple of times and it didn't proc, so I kind of give up on it. So I'm not gonna pop the curse here, but in Isabella and in a raid, you will have to do it. Now, with that said, Ring of Fire is also kind of useless for me soloing it here because I need to move to avoid the damage from the boss, but at the same time, when you actually gonna have somebody else tanking for you, Ring of Fire is an excellent single target DPS. So, when it comes to main priorities, it's Explosion of Darkness and it's Murder of Cross. You want to have a Murder of Cross as much as possible on a target, and you want to exterminate as much Explosion of Darkness, as much of cooldown as possible. That is gonna give you a big DPS. So, with that said, opener is going to be Murder of Cross into a 3 stacks of Taint. Mark of Death procs, so I'm going to start doing Invoice of Taint and I'm going to explode him as well at the same time. Now, here I can actually Dark Ritual myself back to my energy levels, reapply Invoice Taints and go back to Explosion of Darkness. Now, the way it works is the more Taint you have on a target essentially, and here your left click filler by the way. And we're gonna do right click as well. Now, the more you actually have a Taint, the more your Explosion of Darkness will do damage. So it's really good when you actually switch in the stance to burst somebody to actually utilize that as well. So now my Mark of Death proc, it will do a decent damage and the boss is almost dead. With me taking about 20k damage and not becoming a single health glow. So that's a Witch's DPS. Extremely strong, extremely mobile, and extremely versatile itself too. And that's not including my curse damage, that's not including my AoE CC and everything else. Hopefully this helps. Just to reiterate, you base everything, all your bursts around this symbol right here, Mark of Death. When it procs, put your curse on the target, right? Do the Explosion of Darkness, pop your Envoys. At the same time, you want to make sure that you're using your Explosion of Darkness as much as possible. It's on a 9-second cooldown, so you need to time your 3 stacks of Taint and the Dark Ritual while Explosion of Darkness on the cooldown, so you will not miss out on those. Your 3 stacks of Taint will do about 60 to 70k damage. Your 1 Explosion of Darkness can clear up to 180k damage, so it's definitely, that will be your priority. And obviously Murder of Crows as well, because it's a really good energy consumer as well. My fellow comrades, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you'd like to see in the description down below, and до свидания.